So I guess like the second part, which like chopping down trees and stuff, I am quite used to that. I'm more, there's a deeper thing that's going on for me in awareness of what's going on the earth.
Yep.
Because I mean, I personally believe, and I see this, is that currently even us sitting here, the way we live is unsustainable.
Exactly.
For our Earth.
Exactly.
And we do need to make a massive change for us to be here.
Yep.
For any length of time in the future.
Yep.
Which I can deal with that.
Yep.
Well, I might not be able to very but,
can I just answer that part, and then we'll go on to the other parts that you want to ask.
Yeah.
And
every shift in the feminine is what I was going to get to. Yeah. So
everything that is happening right now to the earth is unsustainable. Certainly. And the question we need to ask ourselves, though, is what do we change to make it sustainable? Now, the answer that many of you will probably think of is, oh, we could do this thing, and we can do that thing, and we can do this thing, and we can do that thing. My answer to you is, you change your soul, and everything will change around you automatically. So if you change your soul and the soul becomes more loving, and the way you change your soul is release the parts of it that are inside of you that are not loving. If you release that, what will happen is automatically every single thing around you will automatically begin to change. And all of the attractions will change, and everyone's consciousness will begin changing as well as a result of your soul changing. Right? You won't have to go out and do a protest, right? Because what is a protest? It's an intellectual expression of your... And what does that create? More... And in the end, does it work? It hasn't, has it? You look at it really honestly, it hasn't. If you change yourself inside of yourself at the soul level, you change your feelings and emotions, welcome, you change your feelings and emotions inside of you, what will happen is automatically everything around you will begin changing. Now, you'll notice this a lot, again, getting back to children. When a parent changes their soul condition by releasing a causal emotion, the children around them, and whether they're adults or not, it's immaterial, the children around them change automatically. They automatically change. And
can I just ask a question about that?
Mm-hmm.
About parents?
Can I just finish answering that question though? Because what I'm getting at here is most of the time what we do with with what we're seeing around us is we see it as what's happening external to us. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And many times we look at them cutting down a tree or clear felling or whatever they're doing, and we think that that is actually external to us, but actually our soul condition assisted the creation of that. And if I release my soul condition and make it into another type of condition, that my soul will no longer have a part in creating that. Right? Now, to give you an example, if my soul has an anger in it towards clear felling, I am actually creating more clear felling. Right? Because what do I need to trigger that anger? I need someone to do that in front of me, right? And once I get to a point where I no longer have that anger and rage inside of me, and I've dealt with the underlying emotion, which was going to be related to a childhood emotion about my future, or scared about things taken off me, or lots of other types of childhood emotions that happen and are created that I don't experience. What if I release those? All of a sudden, people who are doing the clear felling will actually start looking at why they're doing it. And that will happen automatically without me having to protest or without me having to do anything else. Does that make sense? Mm. I know it sounds like, no, that's not going to work. How, you know.
Because you're not attracting it anymore.
Exactly, you're not attracting it anymore. And
the energy you're putting into it when you're really feeling angry and fearful is no longer there because you've got your energy. You've got your energy for love or whatever else.
Totally. Remember. I think I said in the introductory thing that here's our soul, right? Now, I'll constantly say, what is your soul? Your soul is your passions, your desires, emotions, yep.
Intentions.
Memories, intentions. These are all part of your soul, right?
Feeling.
Now, if my intention is to fight somebody, every time I see something happening that's wrong, if that's my intention, I'm determining firstly that it's wrong, so that's me making a judgment. Then I go down the track of fighting them, because I'm now putting what am I doing now? I'm putting all of my passion and desire into opposing things. But what created that thing? My own soul condition of something even deeper within me that I'm actually not facing. That's what created that thing. And collectively we all create in this manner.
Could I just interject there for a second? You mentioned collectively. At the moment there's a lot of angst in Tasmania, with tens of thousands of people objecting to guns and the Forestry Commission, whatever they call it, over here. Say if one single person, say any one of us here who's feeling particular angry, changed their soul condition, you've still got another 19,999 people who are wanting to tear guns to pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, is that just going to mean that, before your first DVD, I used to think you'd go into another dimension where guns wouldn't exist, but now I'm rather confused now.
What will happen is that if you change to the point, if you change this soul to the point where you're actually at one with God, every single person in Tasmania will know automatically that you're in that new condition. And you'll be able to do things like healing, you'll be able to do things that people from all around will just flock to you for your advice and they'll flock to you. That's what will happen. And they'll flock to you not because you're anything special, but because you're now connected with God and you're in harmony with God so much, you're now at one with God, and God can now channel all of her energy, God can channel all of her thoughts and her feelings through you. Right? Now you imagine yourself in that place. Do you think the other 19,000 are going to listen now?
Well, they might not know it though.
They will know it, for sure. How did a movement begin from a single man in the first century to change the world, really, in a lot of ways? Right? How did that begin? From one person. So they'll know it. And you imagine if there's 10 of you, or you imagine just 20 of you in that condition here in Tasmania. The effect is going to be so enormous. The effect is that once you get into a one-minute condition with God, every single person on this earth, whether they're aware of it or not, will know. Right? And they will be drawn to you or repelled by you, depending on how much truth they want in their life or how much truth they want to avoid. But it's your soul that is the powerful thing. So if I'm having this anger, and I'm one of 20,000 people having this anger, and there's one less person now having the anger. Now there's only 19,999 having anger, obviously. Yeah. There's got to be a better effect. But if my soul was in a one-minute condition without this anger, that compensates in many cases for millions of people in a different state. All right? And so it's important for you to understand that you might begin the journey, deal with one emotion, and you might just see a little bit of change around you. You might see your children change a bit. You might see the work situation change a bit, and so forth. And then you deal with another emotion, you see this bit change and that bit change. You deal with another, and before you know it, what's happening is the sphere of changes around you is getting bigger and bigger with each emotion you release. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's what happens. Now, saying, well, if I don't start that process, I'm hardly having any effect on someone else. Well, that's true right at the beginning. What you're saying is true right at the beginning. What's one less person than 20,000? Not much. But if one doesn't start the process, will the others ever start it? Like, you've also got to look at it that way too.
So what you're saying is slightly different from the 100th monkey syndrome.
Yeah. The most powerful things that have ever happened in the world usually have come from one person changing. You think about that.
Yeah. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, like you think of all the powerful things that have happened that have affected you and affected the way you think and affected you on your spiritual journey. How many of them involved like 100,000 people? Most of them, didn't they involve one person? You think about it. And while the 100,000 people doing it is fantastic and you feel lots of joy about that, it's the one person generally who inspires you, isn't it? Interesting that, isn't it? So you can all become inspirations for everyone around you. In the same manner. So understand that this is your soul, this is the real you, this is the power you have. When these passions and desires and emotions are exercised in disharmony with God, then you're going to create some very negative things in your universe, which happens to also be mine. Right? And if your passions and desires and emotions and intentions are harmonious with God's love, you're going to create some very powerful things that are going to affect me in a powerful way, whether I'm conscious of it or not. It'll affect me. Something to think about.
Are you saying that harmonious emotions are more powerful than disharmonious emotions? Yeah.
Totally. And this is like every person who's in a condition of closer love to God. So in other words, in a better condition of love, has a far more powerful effect on the world than people that are in negative conditions. Like, you give you an example, and all of these people I just mentioned that inspire you. Does a murderer that you see on death row inspire you?
No.
You hear about it, don't you? And you think, but does it change your life? Not really, in most cases, does it? It doesn't inspire you. So who had the most power over you? Wasn't it the person who acted positively in their life and taught
And the love, yeah.
and reflected love in their life? Wasn't that the thing that had the most power over you? Yeah. Love has a lot more power than any negative experience.
I think of Mother Teresa sometimes and
Yeah.
all her good work.
Yeah.
Mind you, there's a lot of just everyday people. I mean, think about Jane McGrath with breast cancer. I mean, she inspired many.
Yeah.
And that was through love.
Exactly.
It would have had to have been. I mean,
Yeah.
they're everywhere in our
And yet
society.
you even compare her with, say, a murderer in Queensland that you've never heard of and
Yeah.
you've probably never think of, give a moment's thought right now. But she has inspired you.
Yeah.
What about on the other side of things then, if there is another side of things, whatever I'm trying to say is that there's somebody that is supposed to be the most powerful person in the world for a couple more months at the moment, and he doesn't really inspire me, Mr. George Bush. So I'm wondering, like, he is inspiring a lot of people, but I'm just wondering, is it because they're not in truth that they're inspired by?
He's
he's done that country.
He's inspiring very few people.
Yeah.
Well, how many of you in the room are inspired by George Bush?
Well, they voted for him for a second.
Oh, true, but I've been to the US many times,
Yeah.
and there's hardly any people in America who think they're inspired by George Bush. Yeah.
But they wouldn't leave their country.
Well, a lot of Americans are inspired by their country, not by a particular person. And even that has its own roots in some very severe emotional injuries.
I was going to say they've done a fair bit of crap in your name, haven't they?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot, but that applies to every country, not just that country.
But it is in Australia as well. It's got a rather bad history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, a lot of these people who are in power have nowhere near the amount of power that you believe they have. Right?
You see right through them. I mean,
Well, we give them our power in the end, don't we? Like, how many of you, like, you think about the government you're under right now here in Tasmania, like, how many of you automatically give your power to them because you feel you can't do anything else? If you did something else, you'd be put in jail, or if you didn't pay your taxes tomorrow, what would happen to you? So what's driving some of our emotions? Fear. Yeah. Imagine if all of us all of a sudden started to decide differently. So we all decided, no, I'm not going to pay any tax anymore. Let's just make that one decision. Do you like that one? Okay, well, let's agree to not do it then. Now, let's say 10,000 people in Tasmania decided to do that. Just 10,000. What's the population here now?
Nearly 500.
500. So we're talking about, what, 10,000 is about, what?
490 something.
How many percent? Just a couple, maybe a percent. Let's choose a percent. Like,
But if everybody did it, it'd be fine because we'd have a good time in jail. Because there'd be lots. We'd have.
you haven't got enough jails to even put you all in.
No, true.
You haven't got enough courts to even process you.
Yeah.
You think about trying to process just 10,000 people all with the same issue. Like one by one by one by one. How hard is that going to be? Can you see how easy it is for just a few people to change things just by being in harmony with their own desires and in harmony with truth and not being afraid? Right? But we don't do it, do we? Because all of us start getting afraid. And then when I get afraid, I renege. Right? In other words, let's say if we all made a pact today and then we had 1,000 people here and we all made a pact we weren't going to pay our taxes this year. The first person that gets under the attack, let's say they renege on because they're afraid. And then the next person gets attacked. And then they get all worried about what's going to happen, so they get afraid. Can you see how fear also affects us so much? If we all dealt with our fears emotionally, we'd all stand firm, wouldn't we? And all of a sudden everything would be different. And that's how easy it is for everything to be different. It just means that each one of us needs to stand firm, which means that we need to get rid of in the soul all of these things inside of it. Right? We get rid of those things inside of it, there's something totally different inside of it now. Now we're able to stand firm for principles, for truth, for how we feel. If it's out of harmony with love, we don't do it. And if we all stay firm in that, the world changes very rapidly.